Hey, hey.
All right.
All right. Before I introduce the show, are you the one person watching?
I am the one person watching.
I always get excited. I'm always like, oh, no. Oh, it's Jerrod. It's
Our
gonna be
loyal
Jerrod.
fan, me.
You're loyal fan of me. Well, everybody, Jerrod, welcome to Ian and Jerrod's Hump Day Extravaganza. Feeling a little saucy, so I added the Gonza instead of
I
Ganza.
like it.
Is
it European?
It is European. We're very European this week. So, how's your week, bud?
This has been a bit of a crazy week. I got my second Moderna shot on Saturday.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm like really psyched, but I was under the weather Saturday, and it was something I ate on Friday thing. So my weekend was all a little. I surprised my mom for Mother's Day, which was nice.
Oh, that's good.
Saw my sister and nieces, but still just trying to get back on the feeling good and healthy track. But I'm so excited now that I've had that second shot. I am ready to just go and get.
Oh, so you're in the 2-week countdown. This is it.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Nice. Yeah, I'm there. I made it.
Oh, you too?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm actually past the 2 weeks now. So.
Oh wow! I mean, soon we could be doing the show just at your place.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, tomorrow, haircut.
Oh.
Tomorrow, I got a scheduled haircut. Yeah, beard trim.
Nice.
Whole thing. I'm like you a month ago. Well, that's good. Yeah, my mom actually came up here, and we went out to eat, which is something that I haven't done a lot of since that. So it was nice because they're vaccinated as well. So
nice. That is, and my mom is. I was worried about my grandmother, but due to unfortunate circumstances, that is not something that I don't have to worry about that anymore. So it was a good chance to see her. Missed out on my dad. He was out going clamming, digging for clams. Yeah.
Are they local?
I'm sorry, broke up a little there.
Are you local? Are they local? Are they local?
Yeah, up in Northeast Connecticut.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So it's not 45 minutes from where I live.
Yeah, mine are in the New Haven area.
Yeah, that's a farther drive. That's a 2.5 hour, 3 hour trip there.
It's not too, yeah. All right, so we got some watchers. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Ian and Jerrod's Hump Day Extravaganza, because we're European tonight, as established. Yeah, so the rules of our game, there are no rules. The only rule is we want you to participate. We bore ourselves, so we need audience participation. So if you're watching from Facebook, if you're watching from YouTube, let us see your comments. Don't be shy. We may highlight a few, and and let us know if you have something really burning to say and want to come on the feed. We will absolutely invite you onto the feed so you can be one of the talking heads up here. Yeah. So, and tonight's topic is streaming superhero shows.
Oh man.
Yeah. So we're not going to deal with movies. Right. This is just, we are in the golden age, the heyday of superhero TV shows, where the graphics, the CGI is up to enough. You can actually do a TV show at movie quality, and there's so many different streaming platforms that are taking the cue from movies and making great and not so great superhero shows.
Yeah, and this is before we did even our first episode, and we were talking about potential themes. This was one that we had spoken about really early on, so we were both very ready for this. And I think that what got us here was the whole Avengers series, from the first Iron Man movie up to Endgame. I think that just brought back superhero shows right to the core, right to the extreme. So I know that's what sparked a lot of my interest in these shows. And boy, this year I sure had a lot of time to get all these shows in.
Yeah. This is it's kind of like, it really is like the culmination, and everything was it's the perfect storm of superhero content,
Yeah, and you know what is really great about this list? There's some you and I like more, there's some you and I dislike more, but it's very dynamic. There's looks at it from a lot of different different directions. And trope is probably going to be a word I'm going to use a lot tonight.
That's fine. It makes you sound like you know what you're talking about. So
I don't even know what that word means.
Exactly. All right. Before we get into your list in modern day, what was your foray into superhero television? Like as a young Jerrod?
My earliest memories, and this is like the age where I can't remember plots very much, but I do remember somehow seeing an old black and white Superman and asking my parents, why does he land that way? Because they didn't have the technology to make it land. So it would show like, the wires bringing him down and then a cut and the next thing like him running as if he just landed and stopped.
Yep.
A
lot of times it happened off screen. You'd hear the whoosh, and then he'd walk onto frame.
Right.
Yeah.
There was Spider-Man in, was it 3-2-1 Contact?
Oh, it's Electric Company.
Electric Company, that's right. So there's Spider-Man Electric Company. Yeah. And I look back, I don't know how the licensing worked for that. But I would say the first superhero show that I watched episodes of, I don't remember much of it, but I remember watching it with my dad when I was very, very young, was the old Incredible Hulk one.
Oh, yeah. With Bill Bixby.
Was that Bill? I couldn't even.
Yeah. And this is a true fact. They thought the name Bruce Banner was a little effeminate and maybe connotated an LGBT. Times have changed.
Wow.
And they changed it to David Banner. So his name on the TV show is David Banner, not Bruce.
I did not know that. What an interesting fact that is.
That is.
That is very cool.
Yeah, for me, Superman, probably the earliest. Again, Electric Company with the Spider-Man probably at the same time.
Yeah.
Batman, the old Batman TV show.
I didn't watch much of that, but I remember.
Caught in reruns. I mean, I wasn't old enough, but same with Superman, obviously. But they were,
The tropes are so familiar to all of us that, and like every time it hits, just all of a sudden, I don't know, what is that, a trumpet or a saxophone sound or the horn section? And it says pow in the middle of the screen.
Yep. And then I remember the old, not Electric Company, but the live action ran for a couple seasons, Spider-Man with Nicholas Hammond as Peter Parker.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, Louis got a good one. G-Force. I used to watch Battle of the Planets religiously. Seven's Arc 7. It was, Japanese animation that they Americanized, put in, American voice actors, but it was imported from Japan in the 70s and kind of was the precursor to some of the other more popular, I can't think of it, but the lions that turned into Voltron.
Voltron.
Yeah, it was a group of teens that get superpowers and are able to team up and do really cool things.
I remembered another one from my childhood that I didn't see many episodes of. Greatest American Hero.
Yes.
When I've hosted events and I've done, one game I've played when I've hosted events on event hosting is I'll play songs that are theme shows to old TV shows and see, the game is to try to get one. And that's a great one.
A great one.
Sparkling look of realization on people's face when I've heard it so long. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And then, of course, the George Costanza borrowing that theme song for his answering machine. Believe it or not, George isn't at home. All right, now that we've lost our one, poor Louis is in the audience.
Louis old like us. It's all right.
He's in for it. We're gonna get him on the show one day.
We got it.
All right, so we have some more ones, and Louis, that's a great point. There are some that I would call superhero adjacent or not as known, and I think people with extraordinary powers constitute superheroes. So yeah, there may be some that I haven't even thought of. So leave more in the comments. We'll talk about them. But let's get into so these TV shows that we mentioned kind of paved the way for Superman the movie, Flash Gordon, and Wonder Woman, another series I watched religiously.
That's right. I could have
forgotten with Linda Carter.
Yeah.
Right. So these paved the way. And then, obviously we're not talking about movies tonight, but Tim Burton's Batman kind of made superheroes mainstream. In the 80s, I worked at a comic book store, and I got to watch it kind of being this very geeky, very niche type of thing, watching it to move more into a more acceptable realm. Parents bringing kids into the comic book store, making it a little less of, you gotta get on your bike and get to the comic store, but actually parents reading with kids. And that was like the late 80s, early 90s. And now, 30 years later, it's part of the mainstream culture.
It really is. And really in the last 5-10 years, again, the whole Batman thing. And when we get to the movies, we might have to do multiple episodes on the superhero movies, because boy, do I have a lot of thoughts on those. But I will say, I don't come from a place of having read the comic books as a kid. It's not that I'd never read comic books. I did. I just had no loyalty to any series or anything, and I didn't get enough into any series to be able to like carry it with me forward. And at a young age, and this is going to sound like some sort of a bragging thing. I don't really mean it that way, but I started reading novels fairly young, and that was kind of where my reading was going. Not that it's any better or anything like that. It's just where I ended up.
I think comics can be a gateway into more traditional books and that sort of thing. It's certainly a very different medium. We'll do a thing on comics. I think we need to, or a reading or something like that. Excuse me.
Yeah. Because I have some thoughts after.
Yeah. But let's get into it. it. So Jessica wants to know Dostoevsky. Yeah, that's what Jerrod was reading.
Far.
Yeah,
it took me a while to pronounce out Dostoevsky, so
I'll be honest with you. It's one of the few times I probably said that word, so it was 50-50 if I was going to say it right.
Jess could have spelled it wrong, and I had no idea.
Yep. Yep. Could be totally spelled wrong. All right, so now we're in this modern age of television. Where did it start for you? You talked about this build up, and the movies have made it a perfect storm and the pandemic. Yeah. So let's get into it.
Yeah. And it's some of these have been a couple years ago, maybe already off the air and everything. But they've all been about within the last 4 or 5 years. And I just happened to personally, I binged a lot of them this year. So let's start off. If you want to pull up picture 1, Doom Patrol. This, to me, I thought was the best superhero show that I've watched out there. It's, to me, the better than any DC movie that has come out in my lifetime. But I think they really hit it out of the park with this. The 2 bigger names in that one are Timothy Dalton and Brendan Fraser. But to me, the 2 best acting jobs in that were April Balby, and possibly my new favorite actor is Diane Guerrero. I thought she was incredible in that show.
Yeah. So for those of you who haven't watched it, first of all,
you know what you say?
Yeah.
There's going to be spoiler alert across the board.
Oh, yeah. So all of these have been out. We'll try not to spoil too much of the things that are recently out, like Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision. We're going to talk about those. We'll try not to spoil any of that. But these have been out for a while. Doom Patrol started out, and this is how deep I am to comics. I actually subscribed to the DC Universe, which was the only way you could watch these shows. So these for me are years old. They're a few years old. And now they're on HBO Max. So everybody, it's definitely a wider audience, not a niche audience. And so Doom Patrol is, as a comic, they did a great job coming up, adapting it. It's a bizarre comic. It was by Grant Morrison, who is an out there thinker. It's very surreal, plays around with the surreal, and this show does it well. Danny the Street is a whole character based on a moving street that has gender neutral, gender fluid, but they're a street, right? So and this was back in the 90s that this was popular. So comics a little bit ahead of time, and now this show is really bringing it to the mainstream. So what do you like about it?
Well, first I will also say one common theme that we're gonna have across the board is a season 1 in shows that are okay, and then it falls off a cliff. In this one, I thought season 2 was better than season 1.
Yeah.
It's
a slow burn.
It really is. It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
The character development of it is excellent. The acting is
fantastic.
Excellent. Diane Guerrero, just to give it kind of an idea of her superpower, and I'm terrible at remembering names and everything, but her superpower is actually that she has multiple, one way to put it, people within her that have different superpowers. And she plays all of them. And in one scene, she'll just be this mean, nasty person. And then the other one, she's a little kid running around acting like a little kid. And I think it was the very last episode of season 2, the last scene that she was in was one of just the best television scenes I've ever seen. I don't want to ruin it, but you know what? It's like so perfect. And it wasn't even a superhero moment, but the music in the background was perfect for that world that was created right there. I am not blown away by many shows or movies, but this one really blew me away. I was super impressed.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a slow burn. These are flawed individuals, and then you give them powers, and usually it's their powers that kind of mess them up.
Yeah.
So they have a love-hate relationship with their powers. They are begrudgingly, and they've become this family because they really are like, it's weird. I would say probably the most mainstream is the character you were just talking about, and she's deeply flawed, and so it is. If you want a little bit more Twin Peaks in your comic book TV shows, Doom Patrol's a really good one.
I'll say one of the things that I think is that I like about this, for the most part, it stays away from the superhero trope of, I have these powers, now I feel obligated to use them to help others, which I think is an overdone trope, and we're going to talk about it in a lot of the other ones. The only one who's like that is Cyborg, who I also thought it would have been better without the Cyborg character. This was one where the Cyborg character in the movie, I thought that was the one weak spot in that.
Well, and he's the one that is coming from a true hero perspective.
Right.
Still got his powers, and his origins very similar to the DC Extended Universe movie, especially the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, but very different in its own, much like the two Flashes, the TV show Flash and the Flash in the movies are different.
Right.
Yeah. Right. All right, let's move on to the next one. Number 2.
So the next one, let's pull up number 2, Legends of Tomorrow. Oh my God. This to me is absolutely the worst one. It is so bad. Everything in it is every ridiculous superhero movie trope. I honestly thought when I first started watching it that it was a satire of superhero TV shows. You've got the cute blonde hand-to-hand combat specialist, the old smart professor. They've got, when they pulled it in, 2 of the superheroes that they pulled into it were actually bad guys, or actually villains, but they're brought onto the team for their powers. And like, one of them, all of his lines, he speaks like this.
Are you talking about Heatwave?
The cold one.
Cold one. All right.
Cold one, yeah.
One of the more established actors from Prison Break. I forget his name.
Both of them,
Wentworth Miller, right?
From Prison Break. So you had the one who all of his lines is a bad guy, were like this.
Yeah.
And then the other one who said all of his lines like this. Yeah. And it's like, how can you keep doing that? It's like 8th grade theater. And it's not that they're bad actors. It's just they made them do everything so tropey in that. Oh.
Well, and here's the thing. All right, so let's go a little deep into where Legends of Tomorrow comes from, right? So there's CW for years have been giving Greg Berlanti carte blanche to do these DC lesser hero TV shows, right? And now it's expanded, right? And they started off with, it's the Arrowverse. So it started off with Green Arrow and then the Flash. And then from that, this supervillain team or these side characters from both of those shows create this super team. Some villains, some heroes, and
all terrible.
Yeah, and it was trying to be like campy like the old Batman series, yet taking itself way too seriously. And like you said, it just turned into these weird character choices, bad line reads, no investment in the plot. It is absolutely my least favorite. And I like some of the Berlanti. This is the worst of all of his shows.
I watched the whole first season, the whole time going, why am I still watching this? And I got into the second season of this movie. I'm like, why? I don't understand why I'm still watching this. To give an example, and it's like so awfully dumb tropey that it made me laugh as I was watching it. But I was also angry. So I was angrily laughing because it just brought those emotions out in me. There's this one character who's like a combination of Iron Man and Ant-Man. He's the billionaire genius who's got the suit, but can also shrink down really small. So he had to go into the bloodstream of one of the other superheroes on the show and shoot his beam to vaporize these, I don't know, bits of metal that were stuck in her bloodstream. And he's on the radio talking to the old professor guy. And then out of the blue, he's in her bloodstream. And he's like, he's starting to freak out. I can't do it. It's just too much. The professor's like, you lost someone, didn't you? What was her name? Like, what? Pulling the old love interest out of nowhere? It's like, dude, he's in this girl's veins. Stop talking about the ex who died. Why would you even? It's like it's like they said, you know what? We've got the superhero trope of the one who lost a loved one, and we are gonna cram. When do we cram it in there? I know, when he's swimming through someone's veins. It was such a terrible bad moment.
Well, and the other thing I have a problem with that I love the actor. It's Brandon Routh. He was Superman in Superman Returns. So now he's still, it's weird when they recast this, a well-known actor. And I'll be honest, it's a similar look. He looks like he looks like Clark Kent. Like he's he plays kind of a nerdy kind of, kind of like Clark Kent. So, yeah.
Yeah, and my thing with the role that they gave him, I don't know if it's the way he interpreted it or what they forced on him, but he's supposed to be a super genius.
Yeah.
But they also seem to try to make him really dumb. So you'll have one scene where he's really like talking all this science stuff. And let's be honest, when they talk anything technical in any of those shows, it's almost always wrong if you don't pay too much attention to it. But they want it to sound smart. And then the next scene, he's the dumb, like a dumb musclehead jock.
Yeah.
Like they just so bad.
They don't know what they're doing. All right, let's move on from this one. We've wasted too much time.
Yeah,
and the next one is so good.
The next one, it was a serious contender for my favorite, and that was Watchmen.
Yeah,
it was the best written show.
Yeah,
and I think I included it on the list because there is the superhero element to it. I really enjoyed the Watchmen movie, and it does draw from that. I think it might even be better as a non-superhero show, but so well written. And the most important show on this whole list. When it came out, I didn't see it right away. I ended up getting HBO Max later, specifically for us to watch that show. And that was where I would go out on Twitter when people were first watching it. And I never knew about the Black Wall Street in Tulsa and the way it was bombed.
Yeah, it was an education.
Yep.
And a needed education, because that is too big of a thing to people not know about. Oklahoma.
Yeah.
We're not going to educate you on this tonight, but look at the Tulsa, Oklahoma bombing back in the 1920s or 30s, and I think
might have been later than that.
Might have been the 40s.
Yeah, and they did it. To me, it was done in a way where it was so intertwined with the plot. There are some people who don't enjoy watching movies that are themed on real history like that because they feel, I don't know, maybe they feel it's being preachy or divisive. I don't feel that way, but there are people who do. But I didn't feel like it was presented in that way. I felt like it was presented in a way of this is very real, had a very real effect on people. And if you're familiar with the Watchmen series at all, because the movie is the same way, it also goes into an alternative American history. But that was a very real element
Well,
that carried.
yeah. So they took that, and if things had turned out differently, it's an alternate reality of America, right? And Jerrod, I'll never push media on anybody, but do yourself a favor and read the Watchmen trade paperback. It is one of my top. It's probably my top two superhero stories of all time. It is, and it's contained. You can get it. You can get it anywhere that sells books. I mean, it's in bookstores. So it is fantastic. Zack Snyder's movie did an okay job with it, but kind of changed the ending. You will really appreciate the show even more when you read the comic. Yeah.
Then I definitely would like to read it because
Yeah.
we won't go too much into it, but I did enjoy the movie quite a bit too.
Yeah. The movie's good, especially I think if you don't know the source material, it's really good. But a lot of folks like me were so in love with the '80s Alan Moore graphic novel. But anyways, yes, Watchmen was smart because they didn't recreate anything. It was a continuation. It was more stories set in this world, so you didn't have to worry about getting the origin story or all of that right. It was building on it, and that was the same guy, Damon Lindelof, who did Lost and Leftovers for HBO. So he had a couple of flops, but that one really he did a great job with.
Another one right out of the park. And I really, as we go on, I'm gonna say, to me, Doom Patrol and Watchmen were, for me, two that were head and shoulders above the rest.
Yeah.
But I think we still have some good and some not so good yet to go.
Exactly. All right, the next one.
So the next one, WandaVision, came out, to a lot of big hullabaloo this year. And I'm a big fan of the whole MCU, the whole Avengers series, really is what drew me in. I was a big fan. And this is the first thing that's come out since Endgame.
Before you reveal your thinking, let me ask you, were you nervous at all about this show?
The first episodes.
But I mean, even before, like when you saw it was going to be a black and white called WandaVision, like what they gave you, I'll be honest, I was a little nervous because I'm like, all right, now Disney's done great with Star Wars. However, now they have the MCU. This is going to be, we're supposed to get Falcon and Winter Soldier first, but then pandemic happened, so WandaVision was coming out. And I just was like, this may be cute, and I took it for face value, this is what it was going to be. So I was a little nervous.
Yeah, I think I was more confused than nervous. I was wondering, where is this going to go? How is this going to go there? Because in the past, the way their movies, and as we're going to see, even other shows have been presented, it's been very, what you see is what you get. Where you knew looking at a black and white sitcom spoof that it wasn't going to be what you see, what you get. That was obviously, was it someone's imagination? You didn't know going into it where it came from.
I just remember watching that first episode and realizing this is going to be deeper than a Dick Van Dyke, homage to I Love Lucy, Dick Van Dyke, all those black and white classics, because they, in every episode or in most episodes, they had the commercials and you could tell something sinister was going on, right? It wasn't at face value.
And the Easter eggs, and every week you'd read the articles. I know I'd read the articles for the Easter eggs. At the end of the day, I thought it was
Oh, I really liked it. I think I had so low expectations, and again that nervousness.
I was on the other end.
You were on the other end, so I just was like, I don't know if I really want to see Wanda and Vision, because I thought it was just going to be like a satire of home life, like they were going to be like, we'll just do this, to be goofy. Yeah. I didn't realize it was going to tie into the canon and get so deep. I'm excited because I think it really does a great job. And I think what's really cool about these TV shows, they're setting up phase 4 of the movies. Without spoiling anything, WandaVision is leading right into the Doctor Strange movie. And Falcon and Winter Soldier is Avengers and maybe a new Captain America movie, that sort of thing. So
to me, I didn't feel like I was watching something part of the MCU when I watched WandaVision. It had little hints of things, and maybe that's not fair as a way to assess it, it didn't meet what my expectations were of it. I will say Catherine Hahn was excellent. She was to me the best part of that show.
She everything she's ever been in. She could be in the crappiest thing and still come out smelling like roses. She's doing some serious work out there. And to do it as a comedian, as to do it in mostly comedic roles, that's so hard, you know? And she's got the chops. I was like, she makes this great villain, you know? So
she's so, you know how there's some actors you watch, actors and actresses you watch, and they're just so good and so cool that you'd love to meet them and just high five them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, about Catherine Hahn. I'd love to meet her and high five her.
She's not even a fan. I just want to, you know, like, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
You've brought me joy. All right, moving on. Moving on.
So the next one, Falcon and Winter Soldier, which makes sense. It was the next one in the series. I liked this one a lot more than WandaVision. To me, Falcon and Winter Soldier felt very much like it got pulled straight from Captain America Winter Soldier movie. And to me, it felt like I felt like I was watching a Marvel movie over 6 weeks. And
I mean, that intro where he's fighting, the Falcon is fighting the helicopters, that was a movie scene. There was no, you know, I mean, that was unbelievable. Yeah,
I couldn't imagine that being good in the days when we used to have little CRT televisions.
Nope.
But that, I left that really feeling like I could see how that's going to be, the elements of that, of so many elements of that are going to be able to be pulled into the phase 4, you know, the next part of the whole Avengers series. It was just good.
And I'll be honest with you, those were two characters leaving the movies. They were, for me, tier 2. And also, when they're putting together the new Avengers in the movies, I hadn't been excited about it because it was all these, what I would call tier 2 heroes, you know, and still jury's out if Spider-Man's going to be part of that. But, but now they just elevated these two guys that I probably care about them more than some of the tier 1 Avengers, you know, certainly Hawkeye. I could care less about Hawkeye. Like I just, you know, it's you know, I'm glad he's going home with his family, and they try to make him interesting by turning him into the assassin game, but
you're right. I definitely left that. I didn't realize how little I knew about the Falcon and you know, the Bucky characters, because they were so secondary throughout everything. And I felt so much more invested in them. I liked the Korean War super soldier they brought in.
Oh my God.
That was a really just both entertaining and again, an important element.
And heartbreaking. Yeah. Like just, you cared. Well, here's a couple of things I want to ask you from your perspective, right? So first of all, Falcon and Winter Soldier, again, I don't want to spoil this, but it's taking the issues of the day and dealing with it in this way, and it's making you think. I didn't know it was going to take it would be such a race relations, you know. But also I want to ask you, Jerrod. So not to paint over race relations, we'll get to it. But also, this is a very veteran military. I mean, you have Sam, who remember we met him. He was a PTSD, working with vets with PTSD.
Yeah.
That was what he was doing when we were introduced to him. He had so much, and I'm stealing some of this from some of the social media posts. I don't think I'm this smart, but he, you know, when he disappeared in Endgame, Steve Rogers started doing a support group. That the symbolism there of how much Sam impacted Steve's life, like you know, obviously Steve impacted Sam's life, but we got to see how much Sam, you know, impacted Captain America, and now he has been given that mantle, right? And then obviously Bucky, you know, started out in the military and then becomes the Winter Soldier and is programmed, and now all of these characters are moving on past that part of their life, and there's still trauma. I don't know if that resonated to you in a way as a vet.
I think the third element of that was the new Captain America coming from this very successful military career where the right and the wrong seemed so much more black and white for him, and moving to a different role and how that confused him and how he had to kind of see things in a different way. And one thing I like about the whole series, and including a lot of what we've talked about, it's one of my criticisms of the Marvel MCU in general, is it's just the bad guys are really bad and the good guys are really good, and you can definitely tell them apart. And even if they keep it a little secret at the beginning, in the end, that bad guy is definitely bad and that good guy is definitely good. But the real world isn't like that. A lot more shades of gray.
It's gray, yeah.
Other series treat that a lot better than Marvel does. But I thought this one did too, because I personally, old veteran myself, multiple, I've been there, done that type of life. In the media, veterans either get hailed as hero or broken and PTSD. And I like that was able to kind of bring both of those elements in, but not let it's one or the other or just both. Kind of the real person and real human inside of that. And I like that they were able to say, hey, the government, the same people that made the superheroes that are the good guys, were also the really bad guys during the Korean War, right after the Korean War. That's the truth of how the world is.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, and I believe this to be true, although I haven't read it, I heard it, the showrunner, African-American and a vet. So there's nobody better to be tackling these two issues than that. And I think that's probably where, I heard another podcast I was listening to. First of all, I've gotten into TikTok, man. and one of my movie superhero people that I follow, and I really recommend you follow him, his username is Straw Hat Goofy. It's straw_hat_goofy. A lot of what I'm saying is because of him, and he also has a podcast and was interviewing a comic book collector that also was a vet and talking about her experiences, and that's where I think I heard that this creator checked a lot of boxes that they dealt with and is certainly qualified to do it. And I think that's the difference. Instead of it being a caricature of things, it was being drawn from real life experience.
Right. That show handled the military and veteran side of things better than most military themed movies and TV shows.
All right, let's move on. We got so many to do.
All right, I've lost track of the numbers, but we are going kind of summing them up all into one. The Netflix Marvel shows. Here we got Daredevil, Punisher, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones.
Yes. All right. Let me ask you. As a whole, what did you think of these? As a whole, not looking at individuals.
As a whole, every single one of them, I felt started out with some good ideas.
Yeah.
And every single one of them fell off.
Okay. I have a little bit different.
Except Iron Fist. Iron Fist sucked throughout.
Oh, Iron Fist sucked throughout. Absolutely. We're in total agreement there. I don't even want to talk about Iron Fist because it was a 70s character and they didn't know what to do with him. And they, as much as they did well with Luke Cage, because I think they did do well with Luke Cage. Yeah. They did not do well with Iron Fist, and they often teamed up in the comics and that sort of thing. The only character I didn't know anything about was Jessica Jones going into this. I don't think I was reading comics when she was created and popular and that sort of thing. However, I've been a huge Daredevil fan for the entire time. I've been reading comics, and this is the most true to life Daredevil. There's problems with it. But I was devastated when they canceled Daredevil. I the first season I loved so much. Yeah. So all right. I like Daredevil. Who do you like? What did you feel?
So I thought Daredevil was the only one that after season, because I think Daredevil was 3 seasons, right?
It was, yeah.
And season 2 was not great, but I thought season 3 was very good again. Yeah. Daredevil also had the best supporting, better than David Tennant was in Jessica Jones. I thought Vincent D'Onofrio in Daredevil was excellent. He was so good.
Yeah.
So good in that. He was the best, to me, the best part. Now
and season 2 didn't really focus on him at all. Like 1 and 3 did. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Now, Daredevil had this one trope that I just can't stand when it comes to these movies. What was his buddy's name? Was it Foggy Bottoms or something like that?
Foggy Nelson.
Foggy Nelson. He's crying. He's so hurt that he didn't know Matt was out there doing superhero fights and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's like, I just had this like, come on, man.
Yeah.
If it was anywhere realistic at all, eventually you'd be like, all right, dude, you need to get over yourself with that. I actually thought the one element out of those that was relatable was in Jessica Jones when her friend watched what she was doing and also wanted to be a superhero.
Yeah.
I think anybody who watches superhero movies or TV shows can relate to that, because when you watch them, you can't help but think, oh, what if I had that? And they each had some things that I thought were good. Like I thought Luke Cage had great acting. I thought I'm terrible at remembering names. The actor who played Luke Cage, I thought was maybe like the 4th or 5th best actor in the series. The supporting acting in that was so good.
So good. I mean, you got Rosario Dawson. You got
she was across the board.
And Mahershala Ali killed his name as the villain. And that was before he got the Oscar and nominations and all that good stuff. So he kind of, there were a few things he was in before this, but this is where I picked him up and discovered, what a good.
My thing with all of them, except Punisher, I gotta tell you, like Punisher, I'm always gonna root on the shows where they say a guy, of course he's a huge badass, like can do anything. He was a Marine. I mean, of course I love that trope that goes out there. It makes me feel like I could be a grade A badass. But all the other ones, especially with Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones, was they would all have these scenes where they killed somebody, right? If any of them killed somebody, they really were like so adamantly opposed to that. And it's not like I'm not opposed to killing people, but I thought they just beat it into the ground so much.
Yeah.
It really lost. It just got tiresome, and that was with all of those. It just, and I can't believe they got some of the actors. They did a short season Marvel Defenders where they were all together fighting the Hand, and they brought Sigourney Weaver into that, which is cool. Out of nowhere, Sigourney Weaver shows up, and she's the biggest badass of that whole group and whole crew.
They got that Netflix money.
Yeah, but too tropey. Like too many times. Like, why is somebody out there might need my help? Come on, you couldn't come up with something better than that. And
that's a good point, Jerrod.
Same line in every show.
It's a good point, and and I don't want to defend it at all, but I think I think what happens is, especially the ones that have a comic book following, they're trying to do fan service, and in the comics, Foggy never knew he was Daredevil. Killing was a big deal, and then in fact they didn't kill because parents would go nuts, and go after the comics. So there is that fan service, and I think they're getting away from it, and I definitely think Marvel is getting away with it because now they have their own fan base that you don't need to have read the comics, and they're creating their own. They veered away from the comics, So, but with the Netflix shows, I think they were still maybe their hands were tied, and it's funny, and I don't mind it because I'm so used to being like, oh yeah, that's just how it is,
Right.
But if you're new to it, you're gonna be like, what the hell? Like, how do you not see that?
I have two other observations of that. One was the way that it tried to exist in the MCU, and every show did this where because all of them are in New York City, so they would talk about when the Hulk went through and tore up Harlem from the in that every one of them they always used the phrase the green guy, that green guy who came through and tore up the city. They never said the Hulk, and I know that was licensing purposes, but they all did it, and that would just kill me. And I've got to say this: it always killed me watching Daredevil, and it's like what he cares about and what Vincent D'Onofrio's trying to rule over is Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
Hell's Kitchen is like a little neighborhood in Manhattan.
But in the 60s, it was the worst one of the worst neighborhoods in Manhattan. You know, so like, again, they're trying to pay service
to the 1960s.
Yeah.
And then in this, they show it like it's some giant metropolis. Like, it's Hell's Kitchen. It's the greatest city in the world type of thing. It's like, no, it's a few blocks of shitty apartments, bad restaurants.
And a couple of improv theaters.
Yeah.
No more, but yes, a couple of improv theaters. All right, let's move on to, and I realized I kept that picture up way too long.
Yeah.
I was looking at our little boxes for the, those watching, we could see each other outside of the main screen.
I can't.
Oh, you can't. I was just watching us on that. I'm like, oh, this is good. Like, why is that picture still there? All right, here we go.
So the next one.
The Umbrella Academy.
This was after Doom Patrol and Watchmen. I think Umbrella Academy was my favorite.
Really?
I thought it was so enjoyable. Robert Sheehan, he's the guy who played Klaus. Phenomenal.
Which
Phenomenal.
One's Klaus? Which one's Klaus?
He's the one on the far right.
Far right, yeah. Okay.
He was phenomenal in that whole series.
Yep.
And we're going to see this with some of the other ones we talk about, but the season 2, I said spoilers, right?
Hold it. I haven't seen season 2.
Okay. Then all I'll say is there's time travel, and you see that in the lead up. You'll find that out.
Yeah, I watched the first episode. Here's my thing, Jerrod. Well, talk about it, and then I'll say my thing.
So a friend of mine once told me this, and I think it's very true. Shows have run out of ideas when they start time traveling or suddenly go to outer space. But this one, the time travel thing, worked. There was one part about it. One guy really, I don't know if I want to spoil, how much I want to spoil it on you.
All right. Go ahead. I'll do it for the audience of you.
Okay, good. The one guy watching here. One guy cared so much about preventing the JFK assassination that it just made no sense. Like, nobody cares that much about the JFK assassination in the 60s, except this one character in this show.
Yeah.
That I'd say, but I thought that was such a good show, and it would have been way middling for me, maybe even bottom half, if it wasn't for that Klaus character. I thought the way he pulled so many of the episodes together. Yeah. So I was so impressed by his acting.
So I should go and watch season 2. I liked season 1, but when it dropped, I just couldn't get into season 2. I watched the first episode and I was like, I don't know. Maybe I need to go back and revisit it.
Yeah, one thing I like, because there's all those different characters on there.
Yeah.
Is there might be like 5 episodes that shows each character experiencing the same period of time that took place in the other episodes, and I do enjoy that, and I think that does a great job of pulling things together. God, that Klaus is so good on that, and I don't think it would be nearly as good without him.
All right, I'm excited about talk about this next one.
All right, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, this is one I just started watching it this summer, so now I've seen.
Can I set up where it falls and then all right. So Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., ABC greenlit it, and Marvel didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know, like, everybody was excited because they didn't know if it was going to fall into the MCU verse. This is prior to the Avengers. This is no, it's not prior to Avengers, but just right after the first Avengers, because Phil Coulson dies in that one. Spoilers. And then, famously comes back. But they didn't know how much, like, would we see the Avengers? Everybody was wondering if we were going to see the Avengers and that sort of thing. So they did, and it was on a network. And at the time, ABC owned Marvel. I mean, it was a Marvel subsidiary, as, Disney and all that stuff. So they had some things, but they really kept it good. And I was all in for about 4 seasons. So go ahead. You've just recently watched it, and then I'll add my pieces. I think we're probably going to be close to agreement. I thought it was a show. I did like that they, at least at times, made some attempts to tie in with events happening. The Phil Coulson thing, Samuel L. Jackson made cameos like once a season for the first few seasons. They tied in the events to the beginning of Age of Ultron. Yeah, I remember watching that and watching the night before Age of Ultron hit the theaters, or 2 nights before, whatever. That you felt like you knew something going in because you watched Agents of Shield. Like it gave us
Yeah.
the littlest of Easter eggs, but it just lit your imagination on fire, and it pumped me up so much to see the movie. I was like,
Yeah.
this is genius that they did this.
And the problem was that it's just like you said, they didn't know what to do, and it just, I thought, started out really high and just the whole time started going down. Like season 1, you watch it, you think this is a good quality show. I am going to enjoy this. And they introduced new characters, and it just, to me, started getting dumb. Like the part where I don't know if they lost Marvel support or the MCU support, and they didn't have a direction to go with the show. All of a sudden, you go from scenes that are like Shield, the cool Marvel Shield doing stuff, to these two badasses who somehow, besides being able to like infiltrate anything and kick the ass of big rooms full of people, they can also fly every kind of jet that's out there. And they try to put these love interests in there, and there'd be two of them having conversations in the front of a jet on the way to a very dangerous mission, and they're like, "Oh, I feel so strongly this way about him now," and the other one's like, "Oh yeah, love's so tough, isn't it?" It's like, nobody talks like that. Stop making that.
It's like they took all the good writers at the beginning and put them on the movies, and this is who was left. Yeah, that's how I don't know if that's true at all, but that's what it felt like. I got through Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
And then that arc is where I fell off. So I think that's season 5, and
Something
I will
like
go. I will go back and watch it. Also, full seasons are really tough for me to watch. I am kind of done. I don't binge watch full seasons. So if I don't watch it on a weekly, I don't really have an interest to sit down for 22 shows or whatever it is. And I don't know if they cut them down at the last seasons, but man, I like, for example, I've always wanted to watch Breaking Bad. I won't do it because the seasons are so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last 2 seasons are so bad. It's like suddenly they go out to outer space.
Oh God.
Then they're traveling in time right after that, and suddenly these jets are capable of going to outer space. And they started doing the thing with the actresses where, with the exception of the one who plays the cavalry, I forget her name, but she's the one who's also in Mandalorian. Was it Mingwa?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But
I don't want to kill
the exception of her, all the other actresses that they had on there, they had all these scenes where they were like crying or really holding back tears, and that started to become too tropey. And this whole thing, like, how many times can you get these group of people? Like, it's really dangerous. We're going into this building. There's a lot of long hallways and big rooms full of these guys with guns, and they're going in with no weapons. Like, we're gonna fist fight all of them. Yeah. I can only keep that reality for once or twice. Then it's like, you guys are woefully unprepared, and how are you not all dead?
The worst thing to come out of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., 2 points. Worst things that came out of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is Inhumans. We're not even going to talk about it because it should be a waste from existence.
Yeah.
I do hope that some of these characters do make it into the cinematic universe. I would like to see, if they start going into Humans, Quake would be good to come in. Coulson's always welcome back.
Yeah.
Basically any of the team I would love to see in a movie. Maybe not all together, but it would be really nice for them to do a walk on or something like that.
Yeah. Hey, just one point with the whole Coulson coming back. James Gunn has said a few times how against he is of characters coming back to life, because the stakes, all the stakes that came with Coulson dying in Avengers.
Yeah, it
kind of gets tossed
you watch
away.
Avengers now and you're like, well, this isn't real, right?
Yeah.
The first Avengers, right? All right. Moving on.
All right. The Boys. I will say I enjoy it. I enjoy The Boys. I will keep watching it, watch every episode. I like it's. If we had superheroes, this is what it would more than likely be more like. That nobody's perfect, flawed human beings. And the reality of life is the more power somebody has, the the less responsibility they feel in life, because they don't have to, because they have the power. With great power comes great responsibility. But as we see in the world that we live in and operate in, most of the time, people who have a lot of power, in our world, it's political and financial power, are very irresponsible with it. They don't use it for the forces of good.
Yep. My problem with The Boys, and I've only seen a few episodes. To me, it just comes off as really low. I don't buy the costumes. They look fake. Like, everything looks a little fake. And I think that's a stylistic choice, but I don't know. I just, because I've never read the comic. It's a relatively new one in the last 20 years. And I stopped reading in the 90s for the most part, although I'm picking them up back now. And so I don't know if that's just because of the style of the comic or that sort of thing, but it was really jarring. As much as I like, and I forget his name, but the main Fed guy,
Carl Urban
guy. Yeah. Carl Urban.
I've been written down as a no. I always enjoyed Carl Urban.
Me too. I like, his is the only Judge Dredd. We could talk about Judge Dredd, but that's a movie. So he was a great Judge Dredd. He's my favorite of the new Star Trek characters. I thought he did a great job as McCoy. Totally bought he could be a young McCoy. He's been in a lot of great stuff, and I do appreciate that he's kind of one of the leads in this one. So I will go back and watch it, but it got relegated a little bit down because it wasn't keeping me.
It's funny you should mention that, like the costumes, like being almost out of place, like almost overly cliche. I kind of felt like that kept with the whole point of the show. Like the superheroes, they're people with superpowers, but the costumes don't serve any real purpose other than to make them look like superheroes.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's another on our list that I feel the same way about, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. I'm excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, that's right, because you just finished I just finished watching this one.
Well, it just wrapped, right? Either last Friday or the Friday before.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So came out weekly. Invincible, which again is based on a comic. Hyper violent. Like very adult theme, hyper violent, and the animation reminds you of, at least for me, of animation as a kid.
Yep.
And so when you see the violence, there's a psychological impact on it. It's almost like watching hyper realistic gore for me. It was just like, these are two things that are so far apart from each other: gore and this super Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
I just think of the subway scene where he holds him, and in that last episode, that last battle is, without spoilers, is unbelievable. Like 20 minutes of just I was sweating. So, yeah.
I'll say I enjoyed that more than I thought I would, because I have a hard time enjoying cartoons as much as I loved them as a kid. I cannot get myself invested in them, and I miss out on a lot. Like comedic ones, I don't really enjoy as much. We'll talk about those in other shows, but it's rare. Like Rick and Morty, I like, but most of the ones that come out, I really don't. So this one I enjoyed more than I thought it would, and I'm not one who enjoys wanting violence just for the sheer existence, in fact, of wanton violence. Yeah. But what I was glad that they had it in this, and the reason for that is, I think a big thing we see in most superhero movies and TV shows are large violent situations, but they gloss over any potential carnage that could have happened. And the reality, I think of the scene, remember in Avengers where they, I can't remember the aliens, when they're going down the street and they're shooting the lasers and the cops are running away and cars are exploding and everything behind them. I mean, in real life, something like that happens. A lot of people are going to die or get hurt, and they're going to be very bad, gruesome deaths. Yep. And I think that, I don't know that if it's right, if I'd go as strong as say I have a problem with it, but I think that there's a kind of intentional dishonesty with movies and TV shows when they create very violent situations, but they don't show the human side of the violence that comes with that.
That's a great point.
And I could,
And it's almost flipped on its ass, because if you remember when we were kids, anytime like someone got a airplane blown up, you would always see the parachute afterwards. Like there was always this, the machine got damaged, but the pilot or the people were always okay. And I think that's what's so impactful on Invincible. They're showing it. No, these are super people living amongst humans, and there are repercussions. There are you know, they are psychopaths with no remorse for humans, and they're dealing it on hero and villain. They're blurring the lines, you know, in this show. And I think the fact that it is animated makes it stronger. And I don't usually say that about superhero stuff. I do have a bias with cartoons. There's supposedly these great DC cartoons that they took right from the comic books, and I don't watch them because they're cartoons, and I'm sure they're great, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, I'll say a problem I have with superhero movies that, God, across the board, is you see them all and they go so hard against, like when they show any sort of fights, they never show that people are dying. I think that's worse. I think it's worse when they show people going in, punching each other, beating each other up, hitting each other, throwing faces into walls, and it's just a clean, they're knocked out. Because real life is not like that.
Yeah.
Real life, if you take somebody and you punch them a bunch of times, there's going to be blood and gore, the broken nose, it's terrible looking. Then you throw their head into the wall. If they get knocked out and go unconscious, it's not a thing where they're going to just kind of wake up a few hours groggy and they go on with their lives. It's like there are very serious repercussions that can come of that. So I think it's more dangerous to show those than it is to show the effects of a lot of violence in something like Invincible, because I don't think I was an idiot kid at one point in time in my life, and maybe I would do idiot kid things that you'd see on TV. If I see that what I'm going to do is going to cause somebody's head to explode and they die right there, I'm not even going to think about trying it. But I could see me being a dumb kid, you know, it was part of the criticism of professional wrestling, but at least they're cartoonish with it. You go out and you hit people really hard in the head and throw their head into the ground and do things like that. That's really dangerous. That's a very real thing that's dangerous. And I think across the board with almost everything we've talked in the superhero genre, I think they make the wrong choice when they do that, to try to, they do it because they think it's going to decrease the violence and all of that and make it more palatable. But I actually think that that's the wrong decision.
Well, it's funny, Jerrod, you say this, because back in the 80s, Fantastic Four famously had a cartoon, and they were not allowed to bring Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, into it. They replaced him with a comedic relief robot.
A robot, yeah.
And it was because the powers that be thought that kids would light themselves on fire because of Johnny Storm. So there's some basis to that thinking, you know.
And I think it depends on the audience. Like that was geared towards a younger audience, where the superhero tropes, MCU and everything like that, maybe starts at like, I'm sure kids enjoy them, but those are also made to be enjoyable to, people through their teens, into their 20s, into adulthood. Absolutely. And that's the age where I think people are more likely to try
being idiots.
Yeah. So that's what I appreciate about that. I do want to say never mind. It was for the next one. Wrong note.
Okay. So the last two, The Boys and Invincibles, both on Amazon Prime. I should go through all of these before getting.
I meant to do that too. I'm glad.
Yeah.
You're doing
Agents
Netflix.
of Tomorrow. Netflix. Watchmen is HBO Max. Yeah. Disney Plus for WandaVision. Disney Plus for Falcon and Winter Soldier. Netflix for these. The Daredevil verse. Netflix for Umbrella Academy. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I believe, is on Hulu.
I watched it. It was on Netflix. I'm not
on
sure.
Netflix. So Netflix, it'd probably be a better
probably
guess.
both. Yeah.
Like I said, Amazon Prime,
Yep.
and that brings us to our next Netflix show.
Yep.
Just dropped about a week ago, Jupiter's Legacy, and I have not watched it, and the reason is costumes.
And I just binged it last weekend, and I will say the costumes are one of the more unappealing parts about it. And to me, the lead actor, like, to me, it looks like he's wearing a wig and a fake beard.
Yes, it's the whole thing.
Yeah,
I can't make it any bigger, but
it's
the whole. Yeah,
I enjoyed it. There were some tropes that were too tropey, but I also enjoyed some of the parts where they dove a little further into some of the tropes to find some of the weaknesses in them. Like, I don't want to spoil. I'm not going to go spoil a lot, but just like a minor thing is you'll see in a lot of it is the struggle where they have their superhero code, their code that they go by, and one of them is not to kill people. And, they talk a lot about when it was bank robbers in the 1920s, when like Superman comics first came out, that was one thing. But in the times today, if there were supervillains today, the world has changed, and we could expect them to be more violent and to be more violent to the innocent bystanders that are around. You look at old superhero movies, and it wasn't really like, maybe it puts them to sleep or makes them all meow like cats. Who knows? But we've seen a lot of cases in the world that we live in when there's bad actors out there, people really do get hurt around them. So there's a lot of the struggle with that. You're right. The costumes are a little.
Yeah.
It's like they were trying
to look phony. It just looks so phony that I don't even think I watched the preview because I was so turned off from it. So that's how much I turned away from it.
Yeah.
Then I read a bad review, and that was the one too. But you're saying it's good, so now I will go back and.
I enjoyed it, and there's a few. I don't want to. Again, I'm not going to spoil it, but there's some elements to it that I thought were really interesting. There's also some elements to it that are a little too tropey, and they involve the relationship.
I think being too tropey is a trope.
It's becoming one because
I think
it gets to the point where it's almost satire.
It is. You're absolutely right.
We won't go too much on that one. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a little more than the reviews came out with it. I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to spoil it because it's so
all right.
new.
Maybe by I'm this summer. It's on my list. All right, here we go. Last one for tonight.
Last one. Titans, also on HBO Max. Might as well.
Also a Berlanti universe, It's Arrow universe adjacent. Yes.
Yeah. So there's 2 seasons of Titans. I thought season 1 I really enjoyed it. When I watched it, I remember thinking how fantastic it was. But spoiler alert, as soon as you watch the first episode, kind of the lead in it is Robin from Batman and Robin. And, he's out there, and you forget how much of a badass he would have had to have been to be with Batman. And
this is Dick Grayson, the original Robin. I think there's been 5 so far.
Yeah.
So this is Dick Grayson. Yeah.
Yep. And I thought it was really good. And it's the first time I've ever seen Robin in anything where he wasn't kind of the weak little boy sidekick. I think it would actually be in a real world where Batman is a tenacious crime fighter and he's got Robin as a sidekick. Season 1, I thought was excellent. Season 2, I thought was not excellent. I don't know how much.
We're going to disagree. I love season 1, and I think it is the better season. And I'll tell you why. The reason I feel they did a restart in season 2. I feel like that first episode with Raven's father, the demon, played by the guy from Castle, one of the supporting players on Castle, which I thought was funny. It took me out of, he played the same character except bad. They wrapped that up in a couple of episodes, and I hated that arc, that 2-episode arc. I'm never been one that if you're gonna do demons, you got to make it really interesting, and this wasn't that. But once they moved and they got their headquarters, and Bruce Wayne's involved, and Jason Todd, who is the second Robin, and a really flawed character that eventually the Joker ends up killing in the comic books, is in it, and Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing, which is something that happened in the comic books. And yeah, I love the arc of the Robins, because Batman messes them up. Like, fighting crime is not a healthy thing for kids to do. Right. They're gonna be damaged afterwards, and this deals a little bit with that, in the thing. I just spoil
the hell out of this.
What's that? I'm sorry. Yeah.
Feel free to spoil the hell out of this.
Yeah. I don't think. It's just you and I right now. Although people watch it afterwards, I see the numbers. People do watch it afterwards. So, I just, for me, it was, they played when they walked into and I'm a sucker for a good music montage. In the second season, they walk into their headquarters and they play, a song by, the Talking Head, the Talking Heads.
Yeah.
And, Home, I forget the real name of it, but it's the one about home. And I just was like chills. But I've always been a huge fan of Teen Titans as a comic. So again, I'm probably consuming it in a different way.
At that point in season 2, when they walked into that, my expectations were sky high.
Yeah.
I was invested. I was really interested. And to me, it didn't
stick the landing.
It turned into this whole thing of, it felt like they had a great idea for season 1, and then season 2 surprised them, so they hurried up and threw it together. Because to me, a lot of season 2, like the interesting characters, I felt they kind of pushed to the side, and they brought in all these other characters that were basically, it was like a group of sidekicks, because that was the whole.
Well, that's how the comic was.
Yeah, history of that, and they turned it into that instead of really putting the focus on what I thought were the interesting characters. A lot of flashbacks, which I didn't think those were necessary.
Lazy storytelling.
Exactly. Very lazy storytelling.
Your points are very valid, and probably tells me that you're a little bit more accurate. I'm just a super fan, so I was forgiving a lot as we went. I also feel like there's a common thing, Jerrod. Most of these shows that made it past 2 seasons, second season is their Achilles heel.
You're right.
I think maybe the exception to that is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because it just got so bad at the end that the season holds up. Yeah, but I do, a lot of these shows we were talking about they bounce back from a really low second season to have a great third season, and I think it's because we don't have to develop these characters like the backstories anymore.
Yeah.
You know who they are. Now they can have standalone, and you can really appreciate them. I think Doom Patrol's the same way. I think it's been strong, but I really think now it's even going to be stronger because we really appreciate these characters, and they've been through a lot in 2 seasons.
I'll tell you, with Titans, even in season 2, when it started to turn into all the flashbacks, I was still good. I was still invested because it's a superhero TV show, and it was giving me what I wanted there until it got to the one with the Superman one. And it wasn't that the Superman guy was that bad, I mean, it's kind of interesting the way they brought him up. But I guess we can just go ahead and say created in a lab he was. But they created a Superman dog in the lab too. And that right there, the first time, that just totally...
Straight out of the comics.
Oh, so they should have left that one in the comics.
So that's how Superboy and Crypto were created in a lab.
Oh my, it was so
that's what that was.
We were not ready. We were not ready for that. Maybe in 20 years, the technology will be there for us to be able to have that on TV, but it was not now. Because it's just like, at one point in time, there's a dog just sitting there, tongue out. Yep. And I love dogs, great dog there. And then it's like shooting the lasers out of its eyes across things to people. It's like, come on.
Well, and Crypto should have stayed in the comics. Crypto has no business. If you're gonna add crypto, make it a cartoon. I totally agree with that. I think that was a stupid idea from the 50s. It was when they were making, comics for 8-year-olds and there were, you had Superman family, which, had all the family and a dog. And then you had DC did Captain Marvel family, and they had Uncle Marvin and all that. It just, an old guy with the same powers and all that stuff. So yeah, they shouldn't. Yeah, I agree with you.
I wish more people were aware of that dog on that show, because I feel like we could just do a whole comedy series of that. Like that dog humps a leg, that leg's broken. That leg's probably coming off.
Yeah, no. You'll be death from humping. Yeah. The dog humped me to death. How did you die? Friggin' Kryptonian dog humped me to death.
The cats in that neighborhood would just be gone. No more.
The dog gives you a lick, your cheek is gone.
Like you get those chew toys where you and the dog are playing tug of war. That dog just dragging you around the city.
Put it on the leash, you lose your arm.
Dog starts flying.
Yeah. There's no controlling that dog.
You're going to need a thicker paper bag to pick up the leftovers from this dog.
Yeah, it pees and it creates a trough in the ground. Like it's Grand Canyon.
Oh, that ruined it for me. The dog shooting lasers. Oh God, that was so. In season 2, like I could forgive so much of season 2 and still enjoy it. The dog just
I appreciate you have those high standards. I appreciate it. It says something. Like I'll give you a lot. But the superpowered dog, no, you lost me.
Yeah, and it's funny the things when I'm watching a movie with like people with super hot powers flying around. I can accept that reality, but not the reality of 2 of them having a deep conversation about the perils of love. Yeah. The realities that I'm prepared to accept. I will admit I come off like a crazy person with those. Like, let's face it, it was a show where people were flying around, shooting things out of their hands, and the metal wrist guards that can block every. Fine. Dog shooting lasers at me.
You're done. All right, so we went through your favorites. Let me ask a few that I feel are suspiciously missing from your list.
Yeah, please.
The Flash, CW Flash.
I have not watched. It's there on Netflix.
Yep.
I have a heart. DC.
Yeah.
It's a combination of DC, where even though some of their shows have been really good, all the movies I think are lacking. Plus the Netflix thing.
Well, here's the thing, Jerrod. I agree with you, and we're not gonna get into this big, but I hate the DC movies. I like their TV shows. So just something, and they're very different, and Zack Snyder has nothing to do with the TV shows. And I have a big problem with Zack Snyder. So we will get into that. But there's a few that you missed, and so Greg Berlanti did Doom Patrol, did Titans, did one more that you mentioned. The Tomorrow, right? We don't need to talk about them.
Yeah.
He also did Arrow. He did Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, and now Superman and Lois, which is on HBO Max. Highly recommend you watch that.
That's tough, because I feel like that's been tried like about once every 10, 15 years. That gets tried.
But it's about Superman and Lois, not Clark and Lois. It is, and they have 2 kids, and it's really about the kids. So it's a little bit of a teen drama too. So you're checking all my boxes. I'll watch any. Yeah, I'll watch any. Basically, I'm Arrested Development in high school. I'll watch anything that's set in a high school universe, because my high school was so bad.
I watched the first episode of Arrow.
Yeah.
And it was hard for me to get into it, but I feel like I want to get into that one. Do I want to get into that one?
It's my least favorite. Not like Tomorrow. Tomorrow's stupid. Arrow to me is a regular guy that does amazing things with arrows, but Batman's probably my only regular guy superhero that I get into. And Batman with his money is not a regular guy. He's
the Tony Stark thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. it was the first one. I watched it because it and it's very soapy. It's very, all of Berlanti's CWs are very relationship driven, and then there's a villain of the week. But it got better. You will see that's where the Atom from
that's kind of why I watch it to see if those get better.
And Canary gets her start there, and right from the beginning. So yeah, it's okay. Flash, I like it because it's superheroes. It's goofy. It has Tom Cavanaugh from Ed, who I really like, playing a different character a season, and you'll see how that happens. It's really funny. It's got Jesse L. Martin. I mean, how can you not like him? So the acting is okay. The stories are okay. They're very comic booky. Flash's villains are really weird, and they have a reason for why the villains are there. Supergirl was okay. It started out on CBS, so the first season is a little more serious, but then it moved to CW and now is off the air. And then Superman and Lois. Those are the DC ones, and you're right. But I wouldn't. They are nothing compared to the movies. So don't let the movies jade you.
Okay, good. And I'll say my first favorite superhero as a little kid was the Flash, and I think probably a lot of kids, at least that point in time, probably kind of felt the same way, because I could go outside and run real fast.
And in your head, oh, I'm running faster than everybody else. Like,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
working. I got powers, you know.
Yeah. So that maybe a more related, because I was never gonna fly or shoot webs out of my hand, but the Flash was my first. Because I actually had a couple other ones that I didn't put on the list that we.
Well, what did you have? What else? And Flash. I will warn you, if you do watch Flash, it deals a lot with time travel. So, but I think it does it okay. So,
all right. So there's a couple on Disney Plus, a few Marvel ones on Disney. Actually, 3. One of them, Agent
Carter.
Agent Carter. Peggy Carter.
So good.
I tried. I got a few, like 2-3 episodes in, and it was just, it wasn't quite Shield and MCU. Yeah. And it wasn't quite like the old Dick Tracy movie from 88, 89, which I actually enjoyed quite a bit. I like movies that can that have the tropes there, but they're not very self-serious about them.
Yeah.
So ones like that. I tried. I wanted to. I just couldn't get into it. There was one, The Inhumans, that was on there. That was objectively bad.
Yes.
But also I was able to watch the whole thing. At least it was compelling enough that I could watch it.
Do you know that was an ABC show, and they tried to release the first episode on IMAX. It was a big marketing ploy, and it failed miserably.
I could see why. Definitely not good enough to be on IMAX.
On IMAX, people were paying.
I don't think it was good enough to be on
paying
ABC.
Movie prices for that first episode.
That was good enough to be like a streaming show that you'll get around to watch.
The network TV, horrible ratings, and then they put the first episode 2 weeks early in IMAX, and it bombed, and then I think it just stole all its thunder. And
then there was one more on Disney Plus, The Runaways. So Runaways.
That was a Hulu show.
Oh, okay.
Originally produced on Hulu, now on Disney Plus.
And that one's definitely more teen oriented. Yeah. I will say that first season, I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I really thought they did a good job that first season.
Yeah.
Season 2, I just had to quit. It just became unenjoyable. Yeah. Everything that was enjoyable about it had changed so much. Like
no resolutions. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it would have almost. I think they almost would have been better off having one more episode or one more half episode where they tied everything up and then just left it at that, because that could have been a more enjoyable way of going about it. Because season 2,
not good.
No, they just like the mom, changing the mom from the business genius to a witch. Like, why? Why are all these people changing? One mom then ends up becoming a cyber mom. She lives in the computers now.
Yeah,
and there was no need for it. The stuff that got so forced. Just
they haven't figured out the mutant quotient, because there's been a couple other recently Fox shows that I forget the name of them, but in the X-Men world, and Runaways is kind of in the X-Men world. They just haven't figured it out yet. I'm waiting. I'm hoping now that, you know, Disney owns Fox, that now that X-Men are back into the fold, I'm hoping there is a TV show based in the X-Men world. I think New Mutants would fall right in. They just had the movie that came out during the pandemic, which I actually kind of like. Not a great mutant movie, but it was an okay movie.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that in our episode. But I think it's ripe to take some of those characters and make them into a, you know, a bingeable streaming show. So.
Yeah, to me, started out so good. Then it was just like, and I didn't even put it on the list.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's a couple of her on Hulu, Cloak and Dagger, which was a Marvel. I watched the first season. It was okay. It's again, if it's problematic, but it was okay.
Yeah,
it was okay. Yeah.
I'll see them, and I'll get really into wanting to watch some superhero thing, and I try. And when they're good, even when they're mediocre, I'm like, I'm in. But when they're bad, they're just horrible. So bad. Legends of Tomorrow is so bad. So bad. They just
that never even got a good season. Like it didn't.
No,
it just started bad and never got better. Like it's been
it got worse.
Bad.
I'm like watching. I remember reading some review where it was like, "Oh, I love the show. Season 1 wasn't that great, but season 2 got good." And that, like, okay, then maybe I'll give. And it was worse. The worst review.
And they got good superheroes on that. Firestorm is a fantastic character.
Right.
Like you know, combining of two minds, an old guy and a young dude, and you know, and that whole thing. I always liked that character, and boy, they just don't know what to do with them.
They made it like so tropey. Each character was such a stereotype.
Well, and you know, again, and you know, I just told you to not lay off Flash with the time travel, but again, a whole show that's based on time travel, so and maybe it was doomed to start. You know,
maybe I don't know. I definitely know Quantum Leap.
Yeah, I love Quantum Leap. Don't get me started.
That was a good show.
Yeah,
like a show can be, if a show's about time travel, then I guess
like that's it. And I guess this one is about time travel.
Yeah, so that was the one that was the only thing that wasn't a forced element to the show, and it could have been good. It could have been good, but they needed to make a decision, and they just refused. So they were too serious. Took itself too seriously.
They don't know how to write those characters. There's no there's no stakes to it at all either. It's just it is what it is. And it must be expensive to make because those actors, there's some named actors in that. I mean, at one point Victor Garber was in it, which you know, so it's got to be costly to make. That's a lot of leads to pay. Yeah.
There's some things I watch and I feel like if I was the actor, I would feel so ridiculous saying those lines. And I felt that a lot in that movie. And it's not that they weren't, you know, committing to those characters, but I just thought it was so poorly written. It was written to be a cartoon and they made it live action instead. Like if they could have taken themselves a little less seriously, I think it could have gone from being really, really bad to actually kind of decent. But oh my God, is it bad?
Well, I like it. You know, what this sums up is you and I are very similar in the ones we like and similar in the ones we hate and mixed road in the middle, which I think creates good conversation. So I love that you put these in order. This was such a good, I would have forgotten to mention some of these. So I've
had so many thoughts on these shows that I've been dying to share with the world. So I'm so glad we were able to do it.
All right. Well, let's wrap up our show. Very quiet in the comments today. Our audience is in trouble, but we're going to keep trying. I'm actually thinking about throwing some ads up for this show. We're going to get a steady audience. Yeah,
we will.
We're going to get a steady audience. For those of you watching, I know a few of our are still watching. If you're going to be listening to us dribble on. Give us some ideas from topics. We will get a topic a little earlier this week and kind of promote it a little bit more to get some of the conversation going before we go to air, so we can pick up on what's already been talked about. But
good idea, yeah.
Yeah. So we're having fun making it. We're hoping you are having fun watching it. If you're not watching it live, still leave comments. We'll go back and read them, and maybe we'll elevate them in our next show to say, hey, before we get into our next topic, let's see what happened off air. So yeah. So we'll be back in 2 weeks at 7 p.m.
Yep, plugs. Let's not forget plugs.
Oh yeah, let's plug. We got a lot going on. What do you got this week?
Plugs. So this Friday, I'm performing live with Bring Your Own Improv. If you go to the bringyourownimprov.com website, or you just go to the Facebook group because it streams live on Facebook. Got 2 shows I'm going to be on Friday, one at 7 p.m., one at 9 p.m. And then on Saturday, I am doing the Word and Go again. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to do that one. Moving to a later time. That one's going to be at 9 p.m. this week. You go to Providence Improv Guild on Facebook or on YouTube. That will be streaming there, and that is a very funny.
That's a fun format.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do it this week. The late night precluded me, but I did the last 2, so I feel like it's give other people a shot.
I do everyone that I can on that
there
one.
You go. Yeah. Well, you have been way more successful at making people laugh than I have. But I'm gonna get there. The tech issue, I alleviated the last one. Now I'm ready to really shine.
I need to share. Can I share a quick story from that involves you and I?
Yes.
From the last show. So,
I know where you're going.
It was not the part that made it on air, unfortunately, but it was before. It's a big Zoom call that we're all on, and for some reason, and this never happens with Ian and I, but we were and our jokes were just falling flat. One
like
right
in a
after
room full of comedians, where it's never silence.
And so at one point, after I think it was one of yours that fell flat, and that's not a shot at Ian because plenty of mine were falling flat.
It was actually bang bang boom, and then it was like, I think it was you did one. No, I did one. You did one. I did one in succession.
Yes,
and then
you after go the third joke failed miserably, it just flopped. I plugged Ian and Jerrod's Hump Extravaganza. And
Justin,
only one person caught, and that was Justin, who was laughing so hard at it, and he was laughing for so long that I was watching him, and I started laughing, and then he saw me laughing, and you know what happens then?
Yeah,
we were laughing so hard that we just were
like
crying,
3 minutes after anything was said, people had moved on. Then they realized Jerrod and Justin are still laughing. And I missed it totally. I heard Jerrod's comment and I laughed, but I missed how Justin took it. So then I'm like, that got me going again. And I was like, oh God, this is too funny.
Even as recently as earlier this week, I was just thinking about it. Just thinking about looking at Justin's little window on that Zoom and him laughing. And I started laughing again. It was probably the biggest workout I've gotten this entire pandemic.
That's awesome.
All right. Sorry about that.
I only have one plug. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m., same place you can catch Word and Go. We have Would I Lie to You with your host, Willie Shackleton, a close friend of mine. 8 p.m.
Handsome devil.
Handsome devil. And he'll have much. You won't be able to see his brown ends coming underneath his gray hair tomorrow. Yeah, 8 o'clock on Pig's Facebook. Really, the fun happens on YouTube, so I should only plug the YouTube because that's where all the great comments happen. So go to YouTube, look for Providence Improv Guild, 8 p.m., watch the live stream. If you haven't seen Would I Lie to You, do so. I think it's probably one of the more fun. Word and Go is also fun for the audience. I think both of these things are really fun for audiences because it's super participative. So if I can say that word, participative.
There was a lot of action in the Would I Lie to You YouTube
comments. And I'll be honest, Jerrod, if you enjoy Jerrod's humor, there are a few places it shines more than in the YouTube comments. So often he upstages what's happening on the stream because of his comments, and we're here for it. So definitely check him out in the comments. Hopefully you're there tomorrow night. Yeah. And watch Would I Lie to You. It's a lot of fun. It's the best stolen game show out there, I think. So,
Undeniably. No tropes either, just straight action.
No tropes. All right, everybody. That's our show for this week. Thank you for tuning in. Hope we made your hump day a little bit better. And hump day is now alive for me. During the summer until August, I have Fridays off. So my hump day is like around noon.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. I'm not complaining. I still will celebrate a Wednesday hump day. Don't get me wrong.
Right. I have Tuesdays off.
Oh, so we're both in the same boat.
So to me, it's like, this is for everybody else.
This is for everybody else. Yes. So my first Friday off begins this Friday. So so tomorrow's my Friday.
And I'd like to just say one more thing before we go.
Yeah.
Diarrhea.
Good night, everybody.